Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 126, 801, Shencang Temple. 126th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei halted the carriage and turned to look at the woman inside. His lips felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds, unsure how to answer. With Ji Yanru's cultivation and insight, she understood the implications behind Li Wei's use of Fang Yuding's identity. Yet she still clung to the hope that Li Wei had secretly met with Fang Yuding and reached some kind of agreement. Madam, Li Wei finally said, 20 years have passed. And there is no going back. Rather than dwelling on the past, it's better to cherish the present and look to the future. Otherwise, you'll never reach the Nirvana realm and will forever remain trapped in the sea of suffering. Li Wei ultimately didn't want to hurt her. As long as there was no definitive answer, hope remained. Just like his own situation. He knew 5 days had passed and Xuanhuan Hongting was almost certainly dead, yet he still clung to a sliver of hope. Because he hadn't seen her body. Li Wei drove the carriage toward the city gate. Ahead lay a straight road leading to the vast, desolate plains, utterly empty. The only sounds were the muffled rumble of the carriage and the footsteps of the Shencang bandit raiders' elite warriors. Behind them, Ji Yanru stepped out of the carriage, clad in martial garments, her long hair coiled up. Armored gauntlets covered her forearms as she stood beside Zhao Huang. Fang Yuding, she said, the world thinks you've gone mad. But I know that no matter what choice you make, you'll regret it. So why not follow your heart in this moment? Go now. As long as you give it your all, you'll have no regrets. Li Wei's heart overflowed with unspoken words. He longed to brew a pot of wine and reminisce with the city lord's wife about their shared past and how things had come to this. Perhaps everyone in this world carried unbearable memories, insurmountable burdens, and inescapable suffering. Rumble. The dead spirit carriage activated its formation and sped westward across the wilderness. Zhang Ning stood atop the towering city walls, the west wind whipping fiercely around her. Her gaze followed the receding trail of dust and smoke across the desolate plains, her emotions a tangled knot. In the end, she chose to believe that Li Wei possessed the strength to face the dangers of the Shencang Temple. True disciple, Wu Hongling said with a cheerful grin, I've heard Fang Yuding's story. It's quite pitiful. Since we already have a grudge against the Shencang raiders, why not lend him a hand? The purple-robed woman replied, the whole city is buzzing with rumors that the Rice Palace immortals have soft bones. The immortals from the Demon Kingdom and Holy Dynasty mock us about it every day. We can't even hold our heads high when we go out. Of course, I know they're deliberately provoking us, trying to get us to eliminate the raiders' threat for them. If we don't take a firm stance, Yu Baoyuan added, the elders back home will scold us, and the rice folk will ridicule us. Do you think you can stand against 6th Immortal Realm experts? The Shencang bandit raiders even have 7th Immortal Realm and transcendent cultivators. How do you think Guo Ju and the others died? Do you really believe you can avenge them with nothing but blind rage? Zhang Ning turned and swept her gaze across the group. She retrieved a ledger from her sleeve and tossed it to them. After the immortals of Rice Palace had passed the ledger around and read it, the pent-up fury that had been simmering in their hearts for 3 days finally erupted. One of them summoned a spiritual artifact from his ancestral field and brandished it. The human clan has gone too far. I'm going to raze every Shencang bandit raider's property in Twilight Manor City to the ground. True disciple, if you try to stop me this time, don't blame this knee for speaking harsh words. Zhang Ning replied, what good will destroying their properties in Twilight Manor City do? Once we leave, they'll only retaliate against the rice folk with even greater cruelty. Wu Hongling was the last to finish reading the ledger, her eyes gleaming with icy fury. The children from Yank Rock Citadel Palace. They're being sent underground to feed some insect clan creature. And it only eats ricefolk children. Nearly 1,000 children were sent just this month. She had initially assumed it was a case of human trafficking. Rice can't be grown in the wolf solitary wilderness. Where are all these children coming from? No wonder there have been so many major disappearance cases in the vast sea rice realm. And this ledger only accounts for hundreds of thousands of victims. Who knows how many more died during transport? True disciple, those poor children must have been terrified before they were sent underground. When I was in the Dao Seed realm, I was ordered to investigate the disappearance of over 100 children from the infant hall. The trail went cold, and the case was never solved. Now, it seems we've found the source. I must report this to the sect leader immediately. If the true disciple fears the Shencang bandit raiders, then we'll seek out the 8th generation immortal and the 7th generation immortal. Zhang Ning quietly observed them. The wolf solitary wilderness lies between the Holy Dynasty and the Demon Kingdom. For the Rice Palace to intervene here, we need a legitimate reason. To eliminate this threat completely, we must destroy the Shencang bandit raiders. Can we truly accomplish that? Prepared for this, she retrieved a boundary pouch and handed it to the purple-clad woman. We need to create momentum first, to make the world aware of what's happening. Only by bringing the transcendent from the rice palace's various halls and altars can we demand accountability and ensure our own safety. The purple-clad woman withdrew stacks of pre-printed ledgers from the boundary pouch, instantly understanding the true disciple's plan. Yet she remained puzzled. This course of action would force the rice palace's high-ranking officials to take action. The elders and sect leaders would be placed in a difficult position and would undoubtedly blame them. Why was the true disciple doing this? Hurry and get to work. Zhang Ning urged softly, her hair ribbon fluttering in the western wind as she gazed toward the desolate plains. If we don't severely punish these mere bandits, won't other human clan factions follow suit? The rice folk are already in a vulnerable position. Can he truly obtain the evidence? The rice palace alone won't be enough. In Twilight Manor City's largest calligraphy and painting hall, over 100 artisans worked tirelessly, printing the account books found in the Yank Rock Citadel Palace. They hadn't slept for 3 days, exhausted and weary. Print faster. A generous reward awaits everyone once this is done. Huo Zheng, an immortal from Lingxiao Palace, strode through the crowd in full armor, urging them on with urgency. Lu Yi stood guard at the entrance, spear in hand. Liang Shanyu meticulously inspected and organized the printed sets, packing them into chests. Siqi hurried over from West City, his expression grave. The Shi King bandit raiders are too cunning. They've arranged the meeting at the Shi King temple outside the city, it's undoubtedly a trap. We might even face 7th Immortal Realm experts there. Don't worry, Liang Shanyu replied. He have powerful allies, but we must focus on our own tasks. Once he secure the evidence, we need to immediately create a stir. Siqi asked, what about the immortals from the rainforest habitat and Holy Hall Life Realm? Lu Yi answered, the Holy Maiden is coordinating their movements. Immortals who volunteered for this operation have already deployed to the 36 provinces. Once they receive our signal, they'll simultaneously attack the Yank Rock Citadel palaces in each provincial city to uncover more evidence of the Shi King's crimes. My greatest fear is that they'll fail to find any leads at the Shi King temple, Liang Shanyu sighed. If that happens, Zuoqiu Hongting will never be saved and will vanish from this world forever. Nangong Baikai, clad in the blood-floating pagoda demon armor beneath a black robe, her face concealed by a veiled hat, moved like a phantom through West City, hurrying toward the city gates. As she neared the gates, Taishi Qingxi, dressed in the purple governor's official robe, stepped out from a narrow alleyway, blocking her path. Startled, Nangong Baikai recognized him and declared firmly, Lord Taishi, please don't stop me. The Holy Commander escorted me across 10,000 miles and rescued me from a 1,000-mile pursuit. I owe them more than one life, I must go. Taishi Qingxi's expression remained grave as he turned toward the city gates. I fear the Holy Maiden might alert our enemies prematurely, causing more harm than good. I'll accompany you. I possess techniques to conceal our vital energy and hide our forms. Nangong Baikai was astonished. Knowing Taishi Qingxi had once held a high position in Lingxiao Palace, she expected him to be exceptionally composed, prioritizing personal gain above all else. But the King of the Western Sea ordered us to prevent anyone from acting rashly, she said. This matter is of utmost importance, and the consequences could be catastrophic. His Majesty is considering the greater good, the safety of all immortals, absolute rationality. But I must repay a debt. Taishi Qingxi replied, during the battle at Cloud Heaven Immortal Plain, without that young man's all-out effort, the mother-child spring would have been lost, Lingxiao City might have fallen, and the entire Lingxiao life realm could have been conquered by the Twin Rice Sector, the Demon Kingdom. I would have died that year as well. How can I stand aside now? The two followed the martial mystic cultivators heading toward the Shi King temple to join the fray. Underground. The key to this battle is capturing Xuanhuan. We can't let him escape through Earth evasion, the Shi King raiders are masters of it. Taishi Qingxi produced 2 invisibility talismans and 2 Earth escape talismans. He and Nangong Baikai silently sank into the earth. The Shi King temple, though called a temple, was actually the Shi King bandit raiders' branch hall on the surface. The temple housed statues of 2 half-human, half-insect beings. On the left stood a crimson spider with the upper body of a woman, adorned with vibrant paint and draped in a cloud-patterned robe. To the right was a purplish-black beetle with the upper body of a powerfully built man, its massive head and entire body marked with black patterns. Yanxi, the 4th son of the Shi King, towered at 5 meters tall, his physique resembling a mountain. Atop his head grew a silver horn over a foot long, as sharp as a sword. Even a glance at it conveyed its lethal sharpness and danger. Yanxi held incense sticks in both hands, respectfully bowing 3 times before the statues. He knelt on one knee, bent forward, and inserted the incense into the burner. Every immortal ascension competition, some fearless immortals emerge, believing their myriad race's lineage, the backing of powerful figures, or their place on the earth ranking makes them children of heaven's mandate, destined to uphold justice. They seek to provoke as Shi King raiders, only to meet obscure and meaningless deaths. How many members does the enforcement group have? Can they truly ensure the safety of thousands of immortals? Most truths in this world remain forever hidden. This year is different. The immortals finally understand the stakes, but then Fang Yuding appears. After spending centuries in the wolf solitary wilderness, he should know the consequences of provoking the Shi King raiders. There must be more to this than meets the eye. Yanxi, his round face the size of a palm fan, with a flat nose and wide mouth, glanced at Xuanhuan standing outside the temple. Are you sure you have no history with him? Judging by his actions, I'd believe him if he claimed you killed his mother. I've killed too many people to remember if I killed his mother, Xuanhuan replied with a wry smile. Clad in black armor, he stood tall outside the temple, his gaze sweeping across the desolate wilderness below. A plume of dust from approaching carriages was already visible on the horizon. Ha ha. Yanxi chuckled, then turned serious. The military venerable envoy specifically instructed us to retrieve the vital item on Yan Shiguan's person. We cannot afford to fail. What exactly is this item? Xuanhuan asked. Yanwu shook his head slightly, glancing at the iron-masked man inside the temple, who was burning incense and kowtowing in prayer. Seventh brother, you met with the military venerable envoy alone. He must have told you, right? Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 127, 802, The Southern Dragon Arrives. 127th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. After offering incense, the iron-masked man walked to the temple entrance, stopping inside the formation's shimmering barrier. He gazed down at the desolate plains below. This is no treasure or transcendent secret as you imagine. It's best to know as little as possible. Moreover, the military venerable envoy's orders are to silence Yan Shiguan permanently. The military venerable envoy was one of the Shi King bandit raiders' transcendent leaders, responsible for commanding all ground forces and overseeing all military operations. In addition to him, there were the labor venerable envoy and the sacrificial venerable envoy. The labor venerable envoy managed the construction and operation of commercial enterprises such as the Yank Rock Citadel Palace and the underground postal routes. The sacrificial venerable envoy remained deep underground year-round, responsible for implanting stoneheart worms into all Shi King bandit raider soldiers and communicating with the insect clan. Beneath these three venerable envoys were the Shi King's sons, such as Xin'er and Yanxi, who held the title of Marquis. Xin'er had returned with overwhelming force, his cultivation greatly advanced. He now ranked 5th in the Shi King bandit raiders hierarchy, second only to the Shi King and the three venerable envoys. Xin'er had originally planned to sell the Jade Tome in Twilight Manor City and had intended to entrust it to Yan Shiguan for discreet sale. When Yan Shiguan's incident occurred, the military venerable envoy was consumed by rage and lost his composure, immediately suspecting the Jade Tome's involvement. After exposing the truth, the two men struck a deal. He's almost at the foot of the mountain. Commander Ji, go meet him and find out what he wants. We're still completely in the dark, Xin'er said, refusing to leave the formation, fearing Anshanjing might be lurking near Twilight Manor City. He had already reached an agreement with Yanxi and Xuanhuan, who had promised to help him ambush Anshanjing. But first things first. Once Fang Yuding was dealt with, they would lure Anshanjing out of hiding. They had to eliminate her quickly, otherwise, if the immortal star was exposed, he would have no choice but to surrender it to the Shi King. The Shi King temple stood atop a 300 jong tall wild mountain. The mountain was barren, its trees stripped of leaves, leaving no cover. Jagged cliffs and scattered boulders lined the winding stone staircase, which was strewn with fallen leaves, creating a desolate and bleak atmosphere. The dead spirit carriage halted at the foot of the mountain. Li Wei had already released his spiritual chi to scout ahead. The mountain was protected by a formation, its depths composed of solid bedrock. The bedrock was so thick that spiritual chi struggled to penetrate it. The Shi King bandit raiders possessed the earth evasion technique, allowing them to tunnel through rock. This was their second key to survival in the wolf solitary wilderness. Their primary advantage, of course, was their alliance with the insect clan, which provided them with powerful backing. Xuanhuan descended the stone steps in long strides, each step covering dozens of meters. His movements were unpredictable as he carefully observed the figure seated in the carriage. Brother Fang, Xuanhuan has arrived. You may release the prisoners now. Li Wei, recognizing this man as the powerful Shi King bandit raiders commander he had seen aboard the Dragon Ridge sandship, leapt from the carriage and unleashed his spiritual chi to suppress Madame Ying, Yan Zheng, and the other martial mystic Dao experts who were desperately trying to flee into the wild mountains. Who authorized you to leave? Didn't you vow to share life and death with Yan Shiguan? Li Wei advanced, closing the distance between himself and Xuanhuan, preparing to subdue him with a surprise attack. Direct questioning would likely yield falsehoods. Moreover, if Xuanhuan sensed his intentions, he would know how to manipulate him. Should Xuanhuan turn and flee, Li Wei would be forced to follow the enemy's lead. Ji Xuanhuan, your Shi-King bandit raiders have grown far too bold. You've adopted a mere insect as your adoptive father and now act with impunity. It's one thing to terrorize the 36 provinces, but you dare to plunder merchants and officials from the Holy Dynasty and the Demon Kingdom. You've become Lord Yan's lackeys, enemies of the entire human clan. You excavate blood crystals from the depths, purchase precious and essence medicine herbs across realms, yet even that can't satisfy your greed. Li Weiyi's aura blazed as he roared his accusations. Ji Xuanhuan, Shina and Yanxi, all gathered within the Shi-King temple, wore grave expressions, secretly suspecting Fang Yuding might be an agent sent by either the Holy Dynasty or the Demon Kingdom. After all, the largest blood crystal mine in southern Yingzhou, located beneath the Wolf Solitary Wilderness, was the prize in a three-way game between the Holy Dynasty, the Demon Kingdom, and the Insect Clan. The Shi-King Bandit Raiders, Twilight Manor City, Formation Immortal City, and Dragon Sect, all these factions were mere pawns in the schemes and battles orchestrated by these three powers. Ji Shanghuan's expression remained impassive, his body wreathed in protective spiritual qi. The immortal inscriptions manifested into a colossal spiritual image of a mysterious insect clan, towering hundreds of feet tall. As the eldest disciple of the military venerable envoy, he commanded one-third of the Shi-King Bandit Raiders' forces. He halted 50 feet from Li Weiyi, looking down from his elevated position. With Brother Fang's cultivation, framing the Shi-King Bandit Raiders would be child's play, wouldn't it? Is that so? Care to guess what I discovered in the Yank Rock Citadel Palace? Li Weiyi's words instantly reminded Ji Shanghuan of his master's anxious demeanor, momentarily distracting him. Seizing this moment of distraction, Li Weiyi moved with the speed of wind and lightning, crossing the 50 feet in an instant. He stood before Ji Shanghuan, his spiritual qi surging as he unleashed a palm strike with the force of a mountain collapsing and the sea roaring. Ji Shanghuan retreated hastily, his heart pounding. He never expected his opponent to attack without warning. As a sixth immortal realm powerhouse who could survive in the treacherous Wolf Solitary Wilderness, he was no ordinary cultivator. His survival instincts were honed to perfection. Reacting instantly, he unleashed a Dao technique shield seal with both palms. Simultaneously, dense purple scriptures materialized on his armor, releasing toxins harvested from king-grade strange insects. This poison could corrode the flesh and blood of any living being below the transcendent realm. Boom. Li Weiyi's palm seal shattered the mysterious insect clan's spiritual image enveloping Ji Shanghuan's body, tore through his Dao technique shield seal, and reduced it to wisps of qi mist. Sensing the poison's danger, Li Weiyi abruptly withdrew his palm before it could strike the armor. Bang. The mere force of the palm seal and its accompanying wind sent Ji Shanghuan flying backward, his body slamming violently against the cliff wall behind him. Ji Shanghuan was utterly stunned. Fang Yuding's combat prowess far exceeded Madame Ying's descriptions, it was terrifying beyond measure. What heaven-defying fortune had this man stumbled upon in the past 20 years? If Yanxi hadn't been rapidly approaching from the mountain, Ji Shanghuan would have fled immediately using earth evasion. Whoosh! Sensing the rapidly approaching, terrifying vital energy from the mountain peak, Li Weiyi activated the blood-floating pagoda demon armor, covering his skin with crimson scriptures. Enveloped in the demonic cloud, Li Weiyi clenched his right hand into a fist and shot forward like lightning. Ji Shanghuan roared, his arms outstretched. The space above the ancestral field trembled as a stone axe spun out, hurtling toward the crimson figure within the demonic cloud. With a thunderous crash, Li Weiyi, like a demon god incarnate, smashed the stone axe aside with his body. His finger, sharp as a sword, struck Ji Shanghuan's chest. Ji Shanghuan regretted his actions with every fiber of his being. Had he known this man was so terrifying, he would have fled immediately. Crack! The pitch-black armor on his chest shattered, pierced by Li Weiyi's finger. The fingertip pierced through bone and plunged into his lung. Sword qi erupted from the fingertip, instantly shattering all 5 Cs within his lung. Simultaneously, Ji Shanghuan's fist slammed into Li Weiyi's abdomen, sending ripples of demonic energy spreading outward. But with his 5 Cs shattered, the force behind the blow faltered. Li Weiyi was sent flying backward 20 meters, unscathed. PFF'd. Ji Shanghuan screamed in agony, vomiting blood as he collapsed to the ground. His spiritual qi surged uncontrollably through his meridian veins, leaving him temporarily incapacitated. Shina is nearby, and Shanjing's telepathic message entered Li Weiyi's mind. Upon arriving, she had detected a faint, lingering scent of rice. This is an unexpected boon. Sister An, hold back until he reveals himself. Today, we must capture him as well, Li Weiyi replied telepathically. An immobilization talisman shot from his brow, ready to suppress Ji Shanghuan into his boundary pouch. Whoosh! A silver thread of spiritual energy, like lightning connecting heaven and earth, descended from the sky. The immobilization talisman split in two, blocking Li Weiyi's advance toward Ji Shanghuan. Impudence. Fang Yuding, it seems we've underestimated you. Your combat prowess is truly remarkable. The sonic waves Yanxi spat from his mouth were a Dao technique, each word striking Li Wei's ears like a thunderclap. They shattered spiritual energy and attacked the soul spirit and consciousness. Sensing the overwhelming power, Li Wei looked up. The entire sky had turned silver, and millions of immortal inscriptions floated in the silvery sea of clouds, rapidly descending to suppress them. The air grew heavy, and the surrounding rocks and mountains cracked and shattered with sharp pops. Simultaneously, a figure cloaked entirely in black robes rose from the ground, wielding a spiritual staff and emitting a vibrant, multicolored spiritual light from the center of its brow. This was Ancestor Lingyi, a great holy spiritual master whom Yanxi had summoned from a distant state capital, one of the myriad sects. Though not directly affiliated with the Shi King bandit raiders, they maintained a deep partnership. Ancestor Lingyi slammed his spiritual staff heavily against the ground. Whoosh! The multicolored spiritual light erupted from the staff's base, instantly radiating outward for hundreds of miles. The wild mountains housing the Shi King temple became the epicenter of this radiant sea of light, resembling an immortal island floating on the ocean. From beneath the wild mountains, dark yellow earth chi surged upward, and thousands of formation inscriptions materialized, swirling around the mountain's base. With a thunderous roar, stone pillars as thick as houses erupted from the ground. Hundreds of miles away, martial mystic Dao experts who had gathered to witness the spectacle were terrified by the encroaching spiritual light and spiritual qi, retreating even further. A sea of silver scriptures, the Marquis Shi has arrived. Just as we suspected, there was an ambush. Fang Yuding is finished. Not just the Marquis Shi, but Ancestor Lingyi as well. You truly can't afford to offend the Shi King bandit raiders. With this lineup, they're determined to crush Fang Yuding completely, leaving him no chance of survival. News of the event reached Twilight Manor City in an instant, sending shockwaves through the entire city. The impact was akin to hearing in Li Prefecture that Xu Fodu and Yang Shenjing had joined forces to assassinate a single person. In Twilight Province, Yanxi and Ancestor Lingyi wielded similar influence and power. Outside the wild mountains, Madame Ying and Yan Zheng charged toward the dead spirit carriage, desperate to rescue Yan Shiguan. PFF'd. PFF'd. The moment they approached the carriage, their foreheads were pierced by wine cup-sized holes, and they collapsed backward, their bodies falling stiffly to the ground. The 13 Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators, who had just risen to their feet, witnessed this gruesome scene and immediately trembled, dropping back to their knees. Xina standing in the Shi King temple atop the mountain, observed the carnage and grew wary. He released his spiritual qi to probe the carriage. Inside the carriage, and Shanjing activated a formation to block Xina's probing. Once the probing retreated, she telepathically communicated to Li Wei, "I've found him. He's in the Shi King temple at the mountain's peak." Whoosh! Li Wei's spiritual qi surged through his body at maximum speed, his eyes burning like torches. His ancestral field opened, and the immortal haze radiance erupted, shattering through the multicolored spiritual light and silver spiritual energy. The yellow dragon sword and evil camel bell flew out from his ancestral field. Instantly, the dragon's roar and the bell's chime reverberated across the wilderness, reaching even Twilight Manor City 300 miles away. After half a year of seclusion, the southern dragon of 10 Springs, whose name shook the heavens, had reappeared in the wolf solitary wilderness. In the city, all the immortal ascension beings paused their tasks and turned their gazes westward in unison. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 128, 803, Defeating the Seventh Immortal Realm. 128th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The soul trembles, the spirit wavers, evil thoughts arise, and chaotic thoughts surge, their malevolence erupting from within. This bell. It's the supreme spiritual artifact, the evil camel bell. Heavens, the strongest earth-ranking person in history has finally arrived at the wolf solitary wilderness. Nether mist blankets the west, the horizon dark and ominous. The bell's sound seems to emanate from the Shi King temple. How is this possible? Would the esteemed southern dragon truly involve himself in the conflict between Fang Yuding and the Shi King bandit raiders? Twilight Manor City erupted in chaos as cultivators from every living realm buzzed with excitement, their emotions running high. The southern dragon of 10 Springs was a living legend. As long as he survived, his meteoric rise would likely lead him to become a sage and supreme being on par with the senior Zongsheng and the Void Ruins Empress. Even the 8th and 7th generation immortals felt a surge of curiosity, which quickly transformed into intense interest. They materialized as beams of spiritual qi and converged westward. Each possessed profound cultivation, at least at the great immortal realm, making them transcendent seeds of the human clan. In South City, Wu Hongling, who had been scattering account books like a celestial maiden, soared to the summit of a 7-story pagoda. With her jade-like arms crossed behind her back and her eyes gleaming, she gazed westward, yearning to join the fray. Her mood shifted from anger to joy. Ever since Li Wei had topped the Earth ranking, their old flame from the East Sea had been rekindled. Her status among the Rice Palace's Immortal Realm disciples had soared, even earning her respectful treatment from the great Immortal Elders. Wu Hongling longed for a private meeting with Li Wei, a strange and compelling desire. Yet she had no idea what she would say to him if they met. The purple-clad woman's face lit up with sudden understanding. So that's it. Fang Yuding is Li Wei. What? Wu Hongling was stunned. After a moment's reflection, she realized that this revelation explained all her previous confusion. Driven by the immortal haze radiance, the evil camel bell resonated with a deafening roar. Sonic waves surged upward, striking Yanxi, who stood amidst the silver spiritual energy clouds, and Ancestor Lingyi, who wielded his spiritual staff. Supreme spiritual artifacts were exceedingly rare, possessed by only a select few, even among top transcendents. Mental and spiritual attacks were particularly insidious, far more difficult to defend against than physical attacks. Despite their formidable cultivation, Yanxi and Ancestor Lingyi both felt a dizzying headache and mental turmoil. Concentrating to mobilize their spiritual qi and spiritual light became an arduous task. The evil camel bell transformed into a massive ancient bell, standing over 3 meters tall, its surface shimmering with ceaseless spiritual scriptures. Tendrils of black nether mist seeped from the bell, coiling like vines and flowing like streams, thickening the air around the wild mountains. The terrifying power of the artifact permeated the area, causing the surrounding cliffs to crumble. Strike. The evil camel bell spun rapidly, hurtling toward Ancestor Lingyi with a deafening clang like a striking bell. Ancestor Lingyi's eardrums throbbed with excruciating pain, as if the bell's resonance would shatter his skull. He retreated swiftly, landing atop one of the formation's stone pillars. Holding his spiritual staff horizontally before him, he channeled the formation's power to defend against the evil camel bell. In the wild mountains, thousands of formation inscriptions and the deep yellow earth chi surged toward him like countless rivers converging into the sea. Before his spiritual staff, they coalesced into a massive formation millstone, dozens of meters in diameter, standing vertically against the ground. Boom! The evil camel bell struck the center of the formation millstone, causing the earth chi to buckle inward and the formation inscriptions to crumble continuously. Ancestor Lingyi's black hood was flung back by the force, revealing his deeply wrinkled face. His hair and beard whipped wildly as his eyes widened, his jaw clenched tight as he stared intently at the terrifying ancient bell that continued to spew nether mist. Supreme spiritual artifact. He gasped, summoning every ounce of his spirit sense and spiritual light. A beam of light erupted from his forehead, piercing the sky. In the spirit realm, 73 psychic power stars spun frantically, launching talismans that hovered before him. Whoosh! The spirit sense, coalesced from his 7 souls, materialized behind him, towering over 100 meters tall. It was a colossal, luminous projection of himself. With the aid of his spirit sense, Ancestor Lingyi finally managed to barely withstand the evil camel bell's mental attack. But, boom! The formation grinding wheel, dozens of meters in diameter, shattered under the impact of the evil camel bell. The mid-grade spiritual formation deployed in the wild mountains stood no chance against the attack of a supreme spiritual artifact. Bang! 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 The talismans before Ancestor Lingyi were relentlessly crushed by the evil camel bell, exploding into dust. The giant, luminous spirit sense shattered into a rain of light under the bell's resonating strikes. Stepping on talismanic runes, Ancestor Lingyi retreated rapidly, covering several miles in an instant. He crashed to the ground, leaving deep fissures in the earth. His head throbbed unbearably, his spirit reeling from the near-fatal encounter. Had his reaction been even a fraction slower, the supreme spiritual artifact's strike would have pierced his physical body. Would his body protection talisman have held? He's not Fang Yuding. Could he be the Earth ranking's top cultivator? Ancestor Lingyi couldn't be certain. Martial mystic cultivators on the Earth ranking were typically under a century old. How could someone so young possess such overwhelming power? Boom! The stone pillars that had risen from the ground earlier shattered into dust under the supreme spiritual artifact's chi shockwaves. A shockwave rippled through the air for dozens of miles around. The 13 Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators below the mountain were sent flying in all directions. Ow! With a dragon's roar, a luminous yellow dragon silhouette, tail down and head up, surged from the ground to pierce through the silver spiritual energy clouds. Within the silver spiritual energy clouds, Li Wei appeared above Yanxi, already clad in a 4-colored psychic spiritual light armor. His vital energy surged as he unleashed a horizontal sword strike, drawing a 3-mile-long sword radiance. This was no probing attack, he struck with full force, employing his most powerful technique. Even if he couldn't swiftly defeat these 2 7th Immortal Realm experts, he aimed to suppress them, preventing them from interfering. Yanxi, still under the influence of the evil camel bell's consciousness, panicked. He wielded his 9th grade 1000 inscriptions artifact, the Thunder Sound Hammer, and activated nearly 5 million immortal inscriptions within the silver spiritual energy clouds to defend himself. His cultivation was nearing the mid-stage of the 7th immortal realm, and he had roamed the wolf-solitary wilderness for centuries. Li Wei, sword strike after sword strike rained down, each blow relentless. Yanxi struggled to parry, unable to withstand the onslaught. He was driven from mid-air, plummeting to the ground, completely overwhelmed. With each clash of sword and hammer, the Thunder Sound Hammer unleashed sonic vibrations that shook the earth and mountains, accompanied by a thunderous roar akin to lightning tearing through the sky. Yanxi had been caught off guard from the start, his head still ringing, unable to think clearly. His entire focus was consumed by the fight, parrying the sword's lightning-fast strikes. One thought burned in his mind: how could someone this powerful possibly be Fang Yuding? Clang! 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 Li Wei gave Yanxi no time to breathe or think. Seizing the returning evil camel bell, he channeled the full power of the supreme spiritual artifact into a crushing blow. Yanxi could no longer withstand the attack. Blood streamed from his eyes and ears as he was sent flying 5 miles away, hammer and all, before Ancestor Lingi caught him with a formation plate. The two 7th Immortal Realm powerhouses regrouped, retreating cautiously as if facing an overwhelming enemy, exchanging rapid telepathic messages. At the foot of the mountain behind them, Xuanhuan had already guessed Li Wei's true identity. Realizing the situation was far more complex than it appeared, he disregarded his injuries and prepared to escape using earth evasion. Sizzle. A searing pain shot through his calf as one of the 5th Phoenix's claws pierced his flesh. Where's Hong Ting? Where is she? 4th Phoenix pounced on Xuanhuan's chest, her razor-sharp claws piercing through his pitch-black armor and sending him crashing to the ground. Her wings, as sharp as blades and shimmering with golden light, pressed against his neck, cutting into his skin. Pinned beneath 4th Phoenix, Xuanhuan's eyes widened in confusion. What are you talking about? Seeing him feign ignorance, 4th Phoenix roared in fury, unleashing twin bolts of lightning from her eyes. The lightning shock convulsed Xuanhuan, exacerbating his lung injuries and causing blood to gush from his mouth. Hey, 4th brother, stop messing around. You'll kill him. Seal his cultivation first, then tie him up and toss him into the boundary pouch. Feng spread his wings, knocking 4th Phoenix aside. He climbed onto Xuanhuan and used the sealing spells he had been practicing. Finally, he bound Xuanhuan securely with a spiritual artifact chain and tossed him into the boundary pouch. At the Shi King temple atop the mountain, Xin'er's eyes, hidden behind his iron mask, narrowed with suspicion. He muttered to himself, finding Xuanhuan was just a pretext to lure me to the surface. Who's in the carriage? Li Yuanzhi. No. They couldn't have known I'd come to the surface. Are they really targeting me? Li Wei was one of the few who knew the truth, so Xin'er naturally felt guilty upon seeing him, unconsciously suspecting himself. After a moment of contemplation, Xin'er sent a telepathic message to Yanxi and Ancestor Lingi. The military venerable envoy entrusted 4 jade tomes to Yan Shiguan, instructing him to secretly sell them in Twilight Manor City. If this matter is exposed, the Shi King bandit raiders will face catastrophic consequences. For now, Li Wei remains unaware of this. You two must exert every effort to retrieve the jade tomes or silence Yan Shiguan permanently. If necessary, I will lend you my aid. Xin'er planned to use and sacrifice these two to distract Li Wei and the mysterious expert in the carriage, creating an opportunity for his own escape. Yanxi stood on the desolate wasteland, staring at the blood flowing from the 5 fingers of his right hand. His mind was in turmoil as he cursed inwardly. How did I get dragged into such a calamitous affair? Every immortal was a top heavenly pride of their living realm, the future hope of the human clan. Hunting down 4 immortals was a calamity that would shake the heavens. In the shadows, the Shi King bandit raiders knew no bounds, daring to do anything. Every act was merely a calculation of risk. But bringing their actions into the light was another matter entirely. Ancestor Lingi regretted his involvement so deeply he wanted to slap himself. Why had he waded into this muddy water? He strongly suspected that Xuanhuan had hunted down the immortals of the 3-clan alliance, which had drawn Li Wei to their doorstep. Yanxi roared with laughter. So you're Li Wei, the Earth Ranking's top cultivator. A young prodigy, a dragon among men. I've long admired your reputation and held you in high esteem. Xuanhuan deserves death 1,000 times over. Young Master Li, take him as you wish. Just release our 5th brother, Yan Shiguan, and we'll compensate you for any demands you make. If settling this matter with compensation was truly possible, Yanxi would gladly agree. Publicly challenging the Taoist heir of the Heavenly Emperor was a gamble Yanxi couldn't afford. Moreover, Li Wei's formidable battle prowess, his command of a supreme spiritual artifact, and his overwhelming qi had genuinely intimidated him. Across the desolate wilderness, immortals from every living realm were shaken to their core, witnessing Li Wei single-handedly repel Ancestor Lingi and Yanxi. The seventh immortal realm represents the complete severance of the seven shackles, liberation from all constraints, and a massive surge in cultivation and combat prowess. Among the 8th generation immortals, how many could even challenge a 7th immortal realm expert? At most a dozen 8th generation immortals possess combat strength comparable to Li Wei's. Each one is a true disciple of the ancient sector and emperor's disciple. The southern dragon's rise has been meteoric. He's already invincible among his peers, and soon he'll be unmatched even across generations. The 8th generation immortals present felt immense pressure, exchanging bitter smiles as they discussed the situation. The 7th generation immortals fared little better. Most, around 200 years old, had yet to reach the 7th immortal realm and acknowledged they were no match for Li Wei. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 129, 804 Confronting Xin 129th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Whoosh. Ku Yao landed gracefully on the desolate plains 100 miles away, her delicate face set in a grim expression. Her fingers, hidden within her sleeves, twisted until they turned white with anger, humiliation, and resentment. She prided herself on her exceptional intellect, far surpassing the foolishness of Wenren Tinghai and Long Qi. Yet Li Wei had manipulated her like a complete fool. She imagined him laughing behind her back, relishing his deception. The memory of him pinning her beneath him in the underground chamber flashed through her mind, followed by the night she had impulsively taken his hand and led him through the streets. Ku Yao desperately wanted to burrow into the earth, cover herself with soil, and bury herself alive. This is too humiliating. How could he act so convincingly? But if he had so many chances, why didn't he kill me and seize the Jade Tome? The answer struck her quickly. She closed her eyes and sighed deeply. The Holy Maiden of the Void Ruins had escaped during the battle at the remains of the Temple of the Wind God because their ambush plans had been leaked. The Dragon Sect's Death Warriors had failed to fulfill their mission because of her. Ku Yao, do you see now? Fang Yuding's attack on the Yank Rock Citadel Palace is far more complex than it appears. Thank goodness I didn't seek out Yanju, the Shi King's third son, or we would have made an even greater spectacle of ourselves. Ku Yu strode forward, his footsteps resonating with the earth's scripture and demonic energy swirling around him like mist. He stopped beside Ku Yao, his tall, imposing figure radiating an aura of profound, unfathomable mystery. Ku Yao said, "Brother, I was careless. I accept any punishment and will never make such a mistake again. No one knows about your connection to Fang Yuding. Don't take the blame on yourself." Ku Yu's dual pupils flickered with coalescing and dispersing law, his gaze fixed on the spiritual chi and spiritual light permeating the distant horizon. Whether it was a mistake is debatable, he continued. These are turbulent times. The Demon Kingdom faces internal strife and external threats, the situation chaotic and unpredictable. Li Wei is no ordinary man, he already possesses the strength to defeat 7th Immortal Realm cultivators. Keeping an escape route open might not be a bad thing. There are no absolute enemies in this world. Our Ku clan should learn from the Chong clan and disperse our talented members among various factions to ensure the clan's survival. I believe grandfather would approve of this strategy. An escape route? No, he's just using me. Ku Yao sensed an ulterior motive in her brother's words, suspecting he was trying to sell her to Li Wei. She quickly changed the subject. So, Fang Yu must be Zuoqiu haunting. Brother, this is a major crisis. You're just realizing that now. Ku Yu's gaze remained fixed on Yanxi, 100 miles away, his lips moving slightly. That fool Yanxi still thinks this matter is negotiable. If the Calamity Crossing Temple's quasi-true disciple incident is traced back to the Shi King bandit raiders, Zhuangxian and Yu Yaozi will exploit it. To maintain stability in the southwest, the Holy Emperor and the Sentinel Commander will have to take action. Li Wei didn't want to be distracted by Yanxi and Ancestor Lingyi. With his sword in his right hand and the evil camel bell hovering above his head, he merged his own aura with that of the supreme spiritual artifact. If you two leave now, I'll spare your lives today. But if you resist, I'll cut you down without mercy. Ancestor Lingyi's face lit up with relief as he lowered his posture. This old one knew nothing of Ji Shenghuan's schemes. Had I known you were the target, young Master Li, I would never have come. This is all a terrible misunderstanding. Abandoning all pretense of dignity as a 7th realm holy spiritual master, Ancestor Lingyi transformed into a streak of spiritual light and fled immediately. How could a sect with 10,000 gates dare provoke the Heavenly Emperor and an Emperor Psychic Master? Especially when the matter involved 4 jade tomes, he wasn't foolish enough to remain entangled in this mess. Yanxi, however, understood the strategic importance of Yan Shiguan and couldn't simply abandon it like Ancestor Lingyi. Southern Dragon, would you grant the Shi King some face and release 5th brother? We'll abandon all the treasures in the Yank Rock Citadel Palace. At the mountain peak, Xin sensed the deteriorating situation. He quietly slipped out of the Shi King temple and fled down the opposite side of the wild mountains, making a hasty retreat. He's trying to escape. And Shencang transformed into a streak of white light, darting out from the dead spirit carriage like a winding white ribbon. She looped around the mountain's rear, pursuing him relentlessly. How much evil have you Shi King bandit raiders committed? Leave now, or I will kill you. Li Wei, uninterested in Yanxi, issued a threat and then enveloped the three phoenix-winged moth emperors with spiritual qi, transforming them into a dragon shadow that surged toward the mountain peak. And Shencang. Shi sensed a familiar vital energy, his expression darkening. His legs petrified, sinking into the earth as he activated the earth evasion secret technique, allowing him to move swiftly through the rock strata. The earth evasion techniques of various ancient sects all allowed passage through rock layers, but their speed and difficulty varied. The Shi King bandit raiders possessed the fastest method of traversal. And Shencang and Shi had clashed countless times, making her intimately familiar with his tactics. Shi Heavenly King, you won't escape this time. The purple heaven thunder seal's true power awakened. Tens of thousands of spiritual artifact scriptures transformed into a violet-black thundercloud that blanketed the entire wild mountains. The seal, as large as a palace, carried hundreds of purple lightning rivers as it flew from Shencang's hand, striking the spot where Shi had vanished into the earth. With her phantom core cultivation realm, the power she could unleash from the myriad inscriptions artifact was unimaginable. Boom! Vast sections of the mountain shattered, and rocky cliffs collapsed. The entire rear mountain was engulfed in thunder and lightning, turning vegetation to ash. Thunder dragons and lightning serpents burrowed deep into the earth. Shi Er's earth evasion secret technique was disrupted, his upper body emerging from the scorched earth. Struck by the myriad inscriptions artifact's might and thunderous lightning, his entire body throbbed with pain. His intent sensed the second myriad inscriptions artifact thunder seal descending. This isn't good, he thought. With Shencang's purple heaven thunder seal and golden heaven thunder seal amplifying her combat prowess, she's become far more formidable. Shi burst from the earth, narrowly evading the golden heaven thunder seal that followed closely behind. He propelled himself 100 zhang away, plummeting toward the desolate plains below the mountain. Li Wei stood atop the Shi King temple on the mountain peak, drawing the myriad inscription spiritual treasure bow with the combined power of psychic martial mystic fusion. He locked onto Shi Er's leaping figure, determined to deny him any chance to touch the ground. The myriad inscription spiritual treasure bow's power was overwhelming, radiating concentric rings of scripture from Li Wei's body. The largest ring stretched several li in diameter. Snap! An arrow shot forth, the bowstring's vibrational force shattering the Shi King temple beneath his feet into rubble. The mountain peak cracked and fractured under the strain. Sensing the lethal arrow hurtling toward him, Shi barely managed to twist his body, avoiding a fatal strike to his back. The luminous arrow grazed his waist, tearing a small piece from his iron cloth protective armor. Fortunately, the armor had absorbed some of the impact, leaving only a shallow bloodstain on his waist without causing serious injury. Li Wei is too strange. In just a few years, he's already defeated a powerhouse like Yanxi. With him wielding the myriad inscription spiritual treasure bow for long-range attacks, the threat has increased dramatically. Shi channeled his ancestral field spiritual qi into the bronze wolf-headed belt at his waist. Whoosh! The belt emitted a metallic glow that enveloped his entire body, transforming into the dragon-headed bronze wolf armor. A dragon helmet crowned his head, and sharp bronze claws extended from his limbs. This was a myriad inscriptions artifact armor, capable of transforming him into a dragon-headed bronze wolf underground, allowing him to pierce through stone and shatter metal. 10 years ago, he had used the armor's escape technique to repeatedly dive deep into the earth, escaping the Transcendent's grasp and instantly becoming famous throughout the world. Violet Firmament Thunder, Golden Heaven Thunder Seal, and Shencang arrived in quick succession, forcing Shi to retreat 3 times. Whoosh! Whoosh! Li Wei, with his quiver slung across his back, descended the mountain at breakneck speed. Stepping onto a bridge of azure smoke amidst the cicadas, buzzing, he continuously drew his bowstring, firing arrow after arrow. Each arrow far exceeded the speed of sound, carving trails through the void as they reached Shi in the blink of an eye. Boom! Rumble! The arrows slammed into the wasteland, leaving deep craters in their wake. Some struck Shi dragon-headed bronze wolf armor, shattered by the spiritual artifact's scriptures. Yet the arrows' impact still destabilized Shi disrupting his spiritual qi flow. Already far outmatched by Shencang in combat prowess, he now had to defend against arrows raining from afar. How could he possibly withstand this onslaught? He had no chance to escape underground. Just as they were about to capture Shi suddenly, Li Wei sensed danger. A tremor shook the earth beneath him. His expression darkened as he immediately activated Yellow Dragon ascending to heaven, soaring into the sky. A thunderclap erupted from the depths. Yanxi, wielding the thunder sound hammer, had shattered a mile-wide swath of the earth from below. Debris and rock shot skyward as the hammer's shockwaves reverberated across the wasteland. How could someone who had risen to the rank of the Shi King's son within the Shi King bandit raiders be a coward? This ambush with the hammer was meant to kill Li Wei outright. Retrieving the 4 jade tomes was merely a minor reason. If he truly succeeded, the myriad inscriptions artifact, the supreme spiritual artifact, and the life-preserving spring jade scroll would all fall into his hands. Moreover, Xin'er and the military venerable envoy would owe him an immense debt of gratitude. At worst, he could retreat underground and never emerge again. The risks were high, but the rewards were even greater. Alas, he had failed. I gave you a chance to live, yet you chose death. Li Wei unleashed the evil camel bell. The bell spun, stirring the nether mist into a frenzy as it struck the shattered earth below. You only gained the upper hand earlier by relying on the supreme spiritual artifact. With the Stoneheart worm's aid, my skin has petrified, and my strength has surged. The outcome of this battle is far from certain. Yanxi burrowed deeper underground, unwilling to directly confront the evil camel bell. The bell crashed into the earth, sending a muffled tremor through the depths. Yanxi was injured by the supreme spiritual artifact's vibrational force. Meanwhile, Xin'er, having caught his breath, seized the opportunity to break free from Anshanjing and flee underground. Li Wei dove toward the ground, preparing to unleash the Earth Lion stride. Whoosh! Blue beams shot from the ground, forming a circular formation that covered several miles, shattering the thick layer of earth. From above, the desert floor resembled a massive blue mirror. Xin'er and Yanxi, who had been preparing to escape using earth evasion, were forced back to the surface by the mirror-like formation. A high-grade spiritual formation, mirroring heaven and earth. The Taishi clan's myriad inscriptions artifact, Jade Wall Spirit Mirror. Li Wei spotted Taishi Qingxi standing at the center of the formation. The former minister of the Imperial Temple of Lingxiao Palace raised his spiritual staff, his body radiating brilliant spiritual light. Xin'er, it seems you truly are the 7th son of the Shi King. Today marks the day of your demise. Li Wei unleashed the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation, channeling the 4 elemental forces downward to seal off all escape routes for Xin'er and Yanxi. Taishi Qingxi, this heavenly king has never considered you a threat. You're simply not worth my attention. Xin'er roared, feigning an attack on Taishi Qingxi to break the formation. In the next instant, however, he surged into the air, his wolf claws reaching for Li Wei, aiming to seize a hostage. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 130, 805, The Power of the Transcendent Realm. 130th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Be careful. Seeing Xin'er soar upward, Taishi Qingxi's expression shifted with concern for Li Wei's safety. He unleashed his psychic power to launch a telekinetic attack on Xin'er's soul spirit. While the dragon-headed bronze wolf armor might block the full force of the attack, it would at least serve as a distraction. For decades, Taishi Qingxi had believed Xin'er to be merely a 7th realm cultivator of the immortal realm. However, their encounter in the wolf's solitary wilderness revealed his grave misjudgment. The barbarian bandit's cultivation had already reached the Dao Harmony realm. Moreover, his spiritual qi was both profound and potent, imbued with an immortal aura. Earlier, deep underground, the mirroring heaven and earth grand formation had nearly failed to contain him. Only Anshanjing, a void core realm expert, could suppress his ferocious power. A Dao Harmony realm expert moved with lightning speed, piercing through the wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formations to appear before Li Wei in an instant. Compared to Anshanjing and Taishi Qingxi, Xin'er clearly saw Li Wei as having the weakest cultivation and shallowest foundation. Whether this youth was the legendary 10 Springs martial mystic cultivator or not, his cultivation was definitely not at the 7th immortal realm. Capturing him alive within 1 or 2 moves would turn the tide of battle. Xin'er's dragon-headed bronze wolf armor unleashed its spiritual artifact scriptures, enveloping Li Wei in a binding cage. The bronze claws, each 7 inches long, tore through space, creating spatial ripples. The surging qi formed claw shadows larger than Li Wei's body. Even if Li Wei had the blood-floating pagoda demon armor protecting him, Xin'er was confident that a single strike would cripple him, rendering him unable to fight. Li Wei sprouted broad, transparent cicada wings from his back, his feet treading on both light and darkness as he soared upward against the onslaught. Yet he remained trapped by the dragon-headed bronze wolf armor's spiritual artifact inscriptions, as if bound by countless chains. Undaunted, Li Wei pressed his palms together before his chest, executing the Buddhist sect's joined palm seal. This was the palm seal from the 6th layer of the sixfold samsara burning karma technique. Boom! Immortal haze pure radiance qi erupted from his ancestral field. 4-colored radiant glow bloomed from his brow center spirit realm. Liquid qi surged through his meridian veins from the divine pivot, activating all 10 springs. At that moment, Li Wei channeled every ounce of his strength, pushing his decades of martial mystic technique mastery to its absolute limit. Crimson gold flames erupted from his body, engulfing the entire wilderness and spreading over 100 miles, transforming the landscape into a vast sea of fire. The immortal ascension cultivators gathered atop the wild mountains where the Shi King temple stood, utterly stunned by the sight. The entire earth was ablaze, a crimson gold ocean stretching as far as the eye could see, an awe-inspiring spectacle. Li Wei broke his joined palm seal, his palms striking out in unison. Boom! Two immense forces collided, shaking the very fabric of space. The inscriptions binding the dragon-headed bronze wolf armor finally shattered. Li Wei was violently thrown 7 miles away, his feet skidding to a halt as he landed. His arms and internal organs throbbed with excruciating pain. Meanwhile, Xuanhuan never imagined Li Wei could be so formidable, capable of withstanding his full-force strike. Not only had he failed to capture Li Wei alive, but his own body was now plummeting back toward the mirroring heaven and earth grand formation below. Worse still, purple and gold lightning crackled above him as Xianjing's palm descended upon his head. Falling rapidly and unable to gather his strength, how could he possibly withstand Xianjing's full power strike and the two 10,000 inscriptions lightning seals? Xuanhuan's misjudgment of Li Wei's cultivation and combat prowess had plunged him into a mortal crisis. Atop the wild mountains, he's mastered the 6th level of the imperial technique. Bu Lianxi, a formidable figure among the 8th generation immortals of the Sword Dao imperial court, his gaze deep in thought, recalled his previous encounter with Li Wei at the Cave Void camp when he had gone to help the Bai clan retrieve the 8 formations flag. At that time, he had looked down on the young man, paying him little attention. But now, as he observed Li Wei again, a subtle pressure began to weigh on his heart. Standing beside Bu Lianxi were Shui Lancheng, the second scholar of the Holy Dynasty's previous Jiazi cycle, Yu Yanjun, the strongest among the 8th generation immortals of the Rice Palace, second only to the true disciple, Yu Li, the number 1 scholar of the Demon Kingdom's previous Jiazi cycle, and several other exceptionally talented women from the previous Jiazi cycle, all of whom shared close ties with him. Some of these women had already married, such as Yu Yanjun, who had become the wife of a life realm lord, living in unparalleled splendor. For those who couldn't become true disciples of the ancient sects or emperor's disciples, marrying a top transcendent was the best path to advancement. Yu Yanjun chuckled. When I saw him in the East Sea a few years ago, he was just a Dao Seed realm boy. Can you believe it? Now, I'm not even sure I could beat him. She was the martial uncle of Wu Hongling and the purple-clad woman. It's truly strange, Yu Li mused, her expression thoughtful. Li Wei has been missing for half a year. If he had remained hidden, he could have kept the life-preserving Spring Jade Scroll safe. Why would he expose himself over a mere Shi King bandit raiders? The star sky mirror is approaching. Bu Lianxi glanced upward. Holy Commander. Nangong Baikai, wielding the Empress's scepter, burst from the earth and gracefully landed beside Li Wei. Nangong, use your transcendent light spiritual power to activate the immortal formation fragment. We must trap them with the formation and prevent their escape. This is a 7th immortal realm clash, remember to stay behind me at all times. After Li Wei finished regulating his breathing, he and Nangong Baikai flew toward the mirroring heaven and earth formation and the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation, with Li Wei leading the way. Yanxi, seizing the opportunity while no one controlled the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation, pierced through the formation's barrier in a desperate attempt to flee. However, Li Wei, striking from miles away with the 9 heavens thunder sword strike, sent him crashing back. The mirroring heaven and earth formation had severed the ground, effectively cutting off the Shi King bandit raiders' martial mystic cultivators' most crucial escape route. Boom. And Xianjing's 6-fold samsara burning karma technique had reached its peak. Descending from above with the 6-fold illusory phenomena swirling around her, she struck Xuanhuan with a palm strike that forced him to his knees, a wolfish roar of fury tearing from his throat. Bang! Bang! The purple heaven thunder seal and golden heaven thunder seal followed in quick succession, slamming into the dragon-headed bronze wolf armor with deafening metallic clashes. Xuanhuan was sent flying backward, tumbling across the ground. He finally crashed down, vomiting blood, his once mountain-like stature now diminished. Li Wei and Nangong Baikai hovered above the mirroring heaven and earth grand formation, their backs turned to each other as they channeled their respective powers. Whoosh! Nangong Baikai opened his ancestral field, releasing radiant light hues. A vast, blazing fountain of light materialized above them, resembling a second sun illuminating the desolate wilderness. The sight was otherworldly, as if a true spring had been suspended in midair, its radiant light hues rapidly spreading across the barren landscape. Holy Commander, why not use the transcendent spiritual power to activate the evil camel bell, turning offense into defense? Nangong Baikai suggested. No. You focus on channeling your transcendent spiritual power to activate the 4 immortal formation fragments. With second uncle and sister in here, Xina stands no chance, Li Wei replied, glancing at the star sky mirror above and the distant immortal ascension cultivators. He didn't tell Nangong Baikai that the primary reason for enveloping the area with the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation was to conceal Xuanjing's attempt to seize the immortal star. Whoosh! 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 4 streams of light transcendental spiritual power surged into the 4 immortal formation fragments and the 4 pages of the Earth Book. Instantly, the ancient formation inscription symbols within the immortal formation fragments began to glow and flicker, amplifying the power of the 6,800 symbol great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation to the level of a high-grade spiritual formation. Nangong Baikai controlled the formation, while Li Wei freed his hands to fully activate the evil camel bell, targeting the soul spirits of Xina and Yanxi. The 4 members had clearly defined roles: main attacker, main defender, containment, and ambush. Taishi Qingxi stood at the center of the formation, 3 divine sword talismans flying from his brow center spirit realm. The golden talismans transformed into 3 ancient swords, their blades shimmering with talismanic runes. Without hesitation, he unleashed the full power of the divine sword talismans. Cracks appeared along every talismanic rune on the swords, bodies, as if molten lava were about to erupt from within. The first divine sword talisman pierced through all of Yanxi's defenses. The talisman, his armor, and his petrified skin exploded simultaneously, sending blood splattering as he let out a blood-curdling roar. The second divine sword talisman pierced Yanxi's chest, leaving a foot-long bloody hole through his torso, shattering his internal organs. The sword's light pierced through his back. The 7th Immortal Realm powerhouse, who had roamed the wolf solitary wilderness for centuries, collapsed heavily within the mirroring heaven and earth, never to rise again. Blood gushed from his back, transforming the surrounding area into a crimson pool. The 3rd divine sword talisman, combined with Xuanjing's purple heaven thunder seal, struck Xina simultaneously. The Shi Heavenly King, who had once escaped the grasp of a transcendent, was once again critically wounded. His body flew backward, the inner lining of his dragon-headed bronze wolf armor shattered, and cracks spider-webbed across his 5 Cs. At this critical moment, Li Wei's vigilance sharpened, sensing something amiss. Xina should have known that Li Wei and Xuanjing's greatest fear was him revealing the immortal star with a desperate shout. Yet, despite facing imminent defeat, he still refused to expose this secret. Danger! Watch out! Sensing a surge of transcendent spiritual qi, Li Wei darted toward Xuanjing and Taishi Qingxi, shielding them with his body. Are you courting death? The iron mask on Xina face erupted with silver transcendent scriptures, which detached from the mask and flew toward Xuanjing and Taishi Qingxi. This was the bargain he had struck with the military venerable envoy. The military venerable envoy had expended decades of cultivation to grant him a transcendent Dao technique, meant to kill Xuanjing. In return, Xina would eliminate all hidden threats, retrieve the 4 jade tomes, and pledge to repay the venerable with a favor. The Iron Mask, a 7th-grade 1000 inscriptions artifact, shattered with a thunderous roar, unleashing the transcendent Dao technique like a divine sea overturning. The torrent surged toward Li Wei, Xuanjing, Taishi Qingxi, and Nangong Baikai. The heaven and earth mirror formation on the ground was instantly torn to shreds. Whoosh! Spatial ripples appeared between Li Wei's brows as the Emperor Talisman's talisman light manifested, blocking the transcendent Dao technique. Without hesitation, Xina transformed into a dragon-headed bronze wolf and plunged into the earth, his voice a menacing growl. Xuanjing, Li Wei, if you pursue further, none of us will escape unscathed. Evil Camel Bell. Li Wei hurled the evil camel bell into the air, activating it with immortal haze pure radiance qi. Xuanjing's spiritual qi far surpassed Li Wei's in depth and refinement, approaching transcendent spiritual qi. 2 pillars of spiritual qi erupted from her palms, instantly enlarging the bell and causing its internal spiritual artifact scriptures to faintly materialize. Whoosh! Nangong Baikai channeled light transcendental spiritual power into the evil camel bell. Fueled by 3 converging forces, a semi-corporeal dragon-headed chin camel erupted from the bell, surging into the earth alongside swirling black nether mist. It unleashed a transcendent aura capable of rivaling a demon king who had just entered the Nirvana realm. Its immaterial form allowed it to move with incredible speed through the mud, instantly overtaking the dragon-headed bronze wolf. Boom! The entire earth was torn apart and overturned by the dragon-headed chin camel, sending the dragon-headed bronze wolf flying into the air. Xina stood no chance against such transcendent power. His armor shattered, reverting to its original form as a belt. The dragon-headed bronze wolf transformed back into human form, plummeting from the sky. Li Wei glanced at Xuanjing before swiftly unleashing 4 immortal formation fragments and 4 pages of the Earth Book, suppressing Xina. And Shencang moved even faster than the formation. With a sharp crack, her lightning-fast finger shattered Xuanhuan's throat, while her claw pierced his ancestral field, extracting the immortal star within and swiftly concealing it. The overwhelming power of wind, fire, thunder, and lightning made her movements barely visible. With ruthless precision, Shencang also seized the immortal golden core from Xuanhuan's ancestral field. The immortal star's vital energy remained contained, completely blocked by the formation. On the distant mountain peak, the immortal ascension cultivators remained silent for a long time, their heart churning with complex emotions. Kuyu spoke first. This is the true power of the evil camel bell, a supreme spiritual artifact. When wielded by a martial mystic cultivator in the void core realm, it can rival even transcendent beings. With this treasure in hand, Li Wei is now very close to achieving transcendent level combat power. The immortals of the Three Clan Alliance went to such great lengths to kill two sons of the Shi King, nearly sacrificing their own lives in the process. What was the point of all this? Shui Lanchang, the second scholar of the Holy Dynasty's 8th generation immortals, murmured to herself in confusion. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel.